All right, let's go ahead and finish out George Bush. So the video scratched, came to a stop when I was just rounding out the Gulf War there, and I was saying that veterans came home to the celebrations that, quite frankly, veterans have deserved for decades previous to that, and the nation was expressing a gratitude to the Gulf War veterans that the nation failed to give to Vietnam War veterans. So that is a lasting legacy of the Desert Storm or the Gulf War. Now, the American troops did not go into Iraq. We liberated Kuwait, we gave them their country back, but we did not go into Iraq. We did not follow Saddam Hussein all the way back to his capital city of Baghdad. So he stayed alive, and he stayed alive for the next 10 plus years. A lot of people say that when George W. Bush sent American forces into Iraq in the year 2003, that he was finishing off his daddy's war, the war that his daddy didn't maybe finish, by going after Saddam Hussein and taking him off the world stage. So something to consider, where the Bushes did W complete the war that his dad started but maybe didn't fully finish. That's something that a lot of people observe. So bring it now to George H.W. Bush is the husband of Barbara Bush, the iconic first lady. Now, where Jackie Kennedy was stylish and an icon, and some would even say sexy, Barbara Bush is a little more grandmotherly, elegant, distinguished. She is known for her iconic pearl necklaces, and in fact she is said to have offered pearls of wisdom. In fact, that's what her book is called, Pearls of Wisdom. So she was a distinguished grandmotherly figure, almost like the country's grandmother. And she also had an emphasis on education. That was her big focus. And we're going to see that George W. Bush marries someone much like her. George W. Bush's wife, Laura, is also focused on education. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. George H.W. Bush, this brings me to the election of 1992. Got to talk about the election of 1992 because you might think that this man who wins America's first victorious military combat situation in over 20-30 years, he's got to be riding high. He's got to be sitting nice for re-election, right? Well, along comes the election cycle of 1992. And we see a rise in third parties. So for the Republicans, they nominate their sitting president, George H.W. Bush. Democrats nominate Bill Clinton, current governor of Arkansas, and he is a younger man. So we're going to see George H.W. Bush of the World War II generation, Bill Clinton, more of the Vietnam era generation, although he did not serve in the military. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. But we're also going to see a rise in a third party candidate, who is Ross Perot. Now, Ross Perot is an independent, but his position in the election cycle really serves to take away some votes from the sitting president, George Bush. Ross Perot is not a Republican. He did not earn the Republican nomination, but he kind of takes away votes from George Bush. Republicans who may have traditionally voted for George Bush vote for Ross Perot instead, and overall that leads to Bill Clinton, seemingly a dark horse, not really the front runner throughout the whole election, but because of the votes taken away from George H.W. Bush and given to Ross Perot instead, Bill Clinton carries a lot of states that maybe he wouldn't have otherwise, and Bill Clinton becomes the president. So we see a third-party candidate having a large impact on the American political landscape, and probably costing George H.W. Bush a re-election at that. So sometimes we think third parties are a good thing to have in a competition. They make the major parties focus on the big issues, but sometimes they siphon away votes from that major party candidate as well. So then you kind of have to wonder, did they serve their role or not? George H.W. Bush, he doesn't wallow in defeat. He continues to live for a very long time, and he just lives a life as a former president. He's a part of that president's club. He stays quiet on the issues of the day. He does not tell other presidents how to do their job, to include his son. Obviously, his son goes on to be president, but he doesn't tell his son how to do the job of the presidency. He spends a lot of time at his home retreat in Kennebunkport, Maine. And a hobby he takes up, even in his later years? Skydiving. That's right. He skydives to celebrate his birthdays in his 70s and his 80s. And he actually has his last skydive on his 90th birthday. It was a tandem jump with the U.S. Army Golden Knights. So he was attached to an instructor jumper, and he skydived on his 90th birthday. That is pretty cool. The final pictures that you will see are of George H.W. Bush at his wife's. First you'll see pictures of just his legacy of liking funny socks. As an older man, just a personality thumbs up, just kind of giving you insight into the man. He liked funny socks, not unlike your U.S. history teacher likes funny socks as well. And really, I personally have been inspired by George W. Bush's outlook on just why not just laugh it up a little bit, right? Why not just have some fun with your socks? So you see a picture there of him, several of his funny socks. To include, he wears a pair that bears the face of Bill Clinton, his old adversary, the man who beat him, the man who put him out of office. But look how cordial they are with each other, how they're able to get along later in their years. They may have had differences politically, they may have been opponents, but they bear no animosity towards each other. In fact, there are many occasions where they are in the same room and they are a part of the same benefits, or they are a part of the same efforts in their post-presidency lives to still bring awareness to such certain topics. So good collaboration despite their political differences. They were able to get over the election of 1992 with no hard feelings. And then finally, there's a picture of George H.W. Bush at his wife's funeral, and at Barbara's funeral, he wears a pair of socks that bear books, look like library books, and that was to bring attention to her lifelong focus on education and literacy. So he honors his wife at her funeral by wearing those socks and bringing attention to her lifelong cause of education and literacy. So that rounds out George H.W. Bush. Apologies for the first video, it's just a little choppy. No key information was cut out, so despite the glitching, you didn't miss any key information. I listened to it and I know that all the key information got put out. Thanks for hanging in there and paying attention to these videos. I want to point out and remind you that I've posted a bonus points challenge, and it is related to the History Channel series America, the Story of Us. So pay attention to that. And Google Classroom is a very generous bonus points offer for those for your upcoming Benchmark 5 exam. So with that, thank you for holding your sneezes till the end of class. You may now express your sneezes as you see fit. From Fabulous Fort Stewart, Mr. Swanson, horns up. Love you. I'm out.